Welcome back to the Workgrid, folks, where we dive into the latest in AI, digital workplace innovation, and strategies for elevating the employee experience. I'm your host, Rob Ryan, and today I'm thrilled to have Kevin Dean, CEO of ManoByte, with us. Kevin will be sharing his insights on how businesses can unlock the full potential of AI while successfully navigating digital transformation to ensure those tech changes actually stick. Plus, we'll hear a bit about his journey as an entrepreneur, a little bit about ManoByte. For over a decade, they have been a trusted leader in driving business transformation strategies. And under Kevin's leadership, they've consistently helped companies tackle those complex digital challenges and achieve lasting success. Today, we're diving deep into the role of technology, the challenges companies face, and how leaders can thrive in this ever-changing digital landscape, particularly with the rise of AI. So get ready for a great conversation, and let's jump in. Hey, Kevin, thanks for coming on to the Workgrid today. How about, before we get started, telling the folks a little bit about yourself and ManoByte?
Yeah, glad to do it. So, Kevin Dean, CEO of ManoByte. ManoByte's been around since 2008. And we've grown over time. Interesting story about ManoByte. ManoByte, I love to dive, and Mano is the Hawaiian word for shark. So I used to go to see my mom who lived in Hawaii all the time, and that's kind of the genesis of the ManoByte story. So my background is, I went to school for computer information science, and it's funny because a lot of the things that we talked about in theory in school are now coming to fruition. And so it's kind of this really nice full circle type of point of life and inflection for me. So yeah, that's me.
That's
And now,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. One of the things I wanted to kind of discuss with you today was particularly around kind of standing up a PS organization, a PS firm. Well, do you refer to yourselves as that, or do you refer to yourself as a professional services agency firm, whatnot?
Yeah, we're definitely a professional services agency that helps companies manage and set up and configure their business processes and the tools that they need in order to be successful from that perspective. So yeah, we're definitely a professional services organization.
Excellent. And your early stage background coming out of the corporate world, I wanted to kind of get into that a bit. Like what motivated you from those early experiences to be, you know what, we can serve our clients better by, inserting ourselves in these practices.
Yeah. So I out of school, I started working for corporate America, and I worked for two large Fortune 500 organizations. So I worked for Eaton Corporation, and then I worked for Stanley Works, both huge companies. And what I was doing there was uh, managing technology and helping them to use technology to better their processes. So this is kind of always the lane that I've been in. But one of the things that I noticed, which many people who work in larger organizations know, in order to get results, there's a lot of processes, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of, uh, yes, this is the right thing, but we're not going to be able to do this right now because of A, B, and C. And for me personally, that was a struggle because I would see a solution, know how to fix the problem, and I wanted to help the organization implement it. And wanted, I just wanted to keep organizations moving forward. And that was a challenge doing that from the inside. And so I felt like if I were to help from the outside and help to bring in and help to solve those problems, it would be great because I understand risk management, change management, which are the challenges that businesses face in order to implement the right solution. And so that is what drove me was this desire to really solve problems without having to be hindered by a lot of the restraints that you find in corporate America. And every organization has those challenges. So
And I
that's
think that's what gives, the smaller PS agencies, the PS firms, a leg up on the larger competition because they typically are benching with folks who've spent years already in corporate, understand the bureaucracy, understand the culture. I spent 10 years in the same big financial services company, Fortune 500, well known. And that's what it was. It was a lot of red tape, a lot of politics, a lot of fiefdoms that had grown
Yeah.
up. But you couldn't be a prophet in your own hometown, even if you were part of organizational change management, technology strategy teams. But coming in from the outside, that's a completely different take. Did you find that as well?
100%, right? And so, even when I was in corporate America, we would bring in outside organizations to give the same answer that we already knew, right? And it had more weight, right? Um, but I think that it was just a matter of leveling the playing field. And so what we bring to the table today is that understanding of all the wheels that have to turn in order to get a solution. And we help organizations navigate that so
Mm,
that they can drive and get the best results as soon as possible. But things have changed even since I've been out of corporate America with the way that technology is purchased and assimilated into the organization,
yeah.
right? And so it's a different mindset and there's a different driver than it was, 15 years ago. So I think at another value that we bring from a perspective standpoint is helping organizations understand that while it may have taken, 18 to 24 months to get a project done, by leveraging a professional services company, you can actually shorten that time to value just because we're looking at it from a different perspective.
Absolutely, those fresh eyes on things. What was some of those early stage challenges when you were first getting ManoByte started? For those who might be listening, they're thinking perhaps they've been in corporate America a while. They might want to up a shingle at some point in time. What were some of those early challenges through those first few years to get yourself started, get yourself established,
Oh my
and
goodness.
have that client base?
Rob, we're gonna have some real talk here. This is and I would say what I'm going to share, anyone who's left corporate America, tried to start an agency, and has had longevity like we have, they understand these are the real facts, right? It's not as pretty and utopic as you might think. Um, and I'll share this with you. I told everybody that we started the company in 2008, and most people remember that in 2009 was when we had the recession.
Yeah.
So that was not a great time to try to go out and start a professional services company, right? In the middle of a recession. So that was a big learning experience. We ate through all of the 401k, all of the money that we got, really, really quick. And it's like, oh man, like we went from here at the top down to very low really quickly. So that was an interesting lesson in early on. You have to be resilient in order to start a professional services company because things are going to come at you quickly that you may not expect. And you're the one on the hook. It's your dollars, right? So it was a challenging time. 2009 was a very tough year. I mean, I'll tell you, we almost lost our house, right?
Wow.
There were real challenges that we had to go through. But we were resilient, we pushed through, and we came out on the other side.
Wow, that's amazing. That's it. So you were really one of those entrepreneurs who had to put all their chips on the table, make or break. That must have been incredibly stressful.
You know, um, it was tough. It was tough, but when you're driven, you know, you stay in the game, and that's the only way that you're going to win at the game is if you stay
Yeah.
at the game. And everybody knows if you've been in any sports, any other arena, there's good days, there's bad days. You get hit, you just got to get back up again, right? And if you don't, then you're never gonna win. You're never going to get to the other side. You're never going to be successful. I think of it like this. like a baby. Like
Mm.
they get up and they fall, but they keep trying, right? And if they don't, 15 years later, you see this kid walk in on his hands and knees, you're gonna think, man, like there was something wrong. But that baby fell, cried, was horrible, flailing
Yep.
around for a lot, but they finally figured it out, right? And then they were much better for it. And that's the way that it is with starting a company. There's a lot of challenges that come at every single stage, right? We got through that stage, we grew, and now, you always face different challenges, right? And so at different stages, you face different challenges as you're going through the maturity and the growth of your organization. And so it's important for people to realize that you have to be resilient. You have to know, I want to go there, but along the way, there are going to be challenges, there's going to be ups and downs, but we're going to keep moving forward and navigate around those. It's going to be a great experience. You're going to have good days, bad days, highs and lows, but overall, you're going to come out really positive and really blessed for going through it.
That's great. There was a good book that was written. I forget if it's been 10 years. I know it's been updated. It's called The Pumpkin Plan, and it's for small business, entrepreneurs, whatnot. And it talks about this concept of really, it uses the growing a large pumpkin as the analogy, because apparently I haven't grown pumpkins, but apparently to grow a pumpkin, you have to trim off all the other additions and really focus in and on one particular vine that will
Mhm.
ultimately feed that pumpkin. Did you find yourself in that type of space where, you were looking at the realm of the possible and had to really focus in on, okay, what's my ICP? What is going to be our point of view of the world, et cetera, to really drive success?
Um, that's a great question, and it's one that I've debated with lots of people over
Hmm.
time, right? Um, I think that you have to have a core. You have to have a core, right? And that core has to be innate. So let me clarify. There's two different paths. First we got to understand there's two different paths.
Hmm.
There's a path of I'm going to start a company with the intent of going through the process of raising fund,
Yep.
selling it. Right. That's one path, and that's a different path, right? And that's not the path that I'm discussing here, right?
Hmm.
Because that's a completely different path, right? With its own set of rules and its own playbook, right?
Yeah.
But if you are wanting to uh, build a company and you want to see it be sustainable for long-term growth, uh, that company has to have you at the core, right? And so the things that drive you as a founder, CEO have to be at the core of that company, even though the end deliverables may vary and change from time to time.
Hmm.
Because what we're delivering today is completely opposite from what we were delivering in 2008.
No kidding.
And so it's changed, but at the core, we're still who we were then, but just the deliverables are different. Um, and so I think that's so that as long as you have at the core who you are and what you stand for and what your company wants to deliver from a solution standpoint, the individual deliverables can and will change. The solutions will change. How you deliver them will change. They'll mature. They'll grow, right? At one time, we were only HubSpot partners, but then we've grown to do focus on integrations with system integration. Then we grew
Hmm.
into delivering AI services, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got multiple streams that we have as an organization, but at the core, who we are and what we do is we help companies automate their processes using intelligent technology. And that's always been at our core from day one. How we did it's changed, but that's always been at our core.
That's fantastic. So what is your approach to technology partnerships in terms of, helping your customers really get the most out of the tech that they've purchased, or even if they're in that stage of trying to find the right solution? What tends to be your PS approach that you bring to the table?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that we look at when we are recommending solutions to our customers. Number one, you have to look at it's funny to think this way, but you've got to think of the organization, its people, and its existing processes first.
Yeah.
That's super important. You may think, oh, here's this great technology, and it may be great. It may be super. But if it doesn't align to that organizational's way of doing things, their processes, it may not be the right solution. The software could be great, but it just doesn't fit with the way that the organization approaches things.
Mm,
So you have to think about that first, right? Um, then once you understand that organization's processes, the way that they think, now you have to look at the next step. I think because this is really in layers. The next step is understanding what are their core pieces of technology that they ain't ever going to change, right?
mm,
Right. So a lot of companies may have an ERP system that they're never going to change, right? A lot of people may have a core CRM system that they're never going to change, right? It's just too big, too bulky to change. We've worked with several multi-billion-dollar organizations that have these core ERP systems that they just can't change. It's just too massive to change. So we've got to factor that in. Like, how do we leverage and layer on top of those layers that things that are non-negotiable, non-changeable at organizations. Then once you've got that layer figured out, you think about what software is going to bring the best value the quickest, right? And so I think about solutions that will help companies be better, faster, solutions that are easy to adopt, solutions that easily integrate to other systems. Those are generally going to be the best systems that you can recommend. And then you also have to think about systems that have a proven track record that are going to be around for a long time. Now, that's a challenge today because, as you're aware, there are a lot of software companies coming up in the AI space,
oh yeah.
and they're really shiny, right? They've got a pretty website, they've got a right, uh, but what's where are they going to be, you know, 5 years from now, right? Are they running this playbook over here that is,
Mm.
I started this company just so that I can get in, get out? That may not be good for company A, B, and C who has a long-term, 10, 20-year business plan
Yeah.
to tie up with a company that their plan is to IPO out as soon as possible within the next 2 years, which right now, a lot of companies are doing that. They're looking at this as a 2-year plan. So those are things you got to think about.
They're looking to make that quick exit, that quick turn. They either go big or they sell to private equity who buys or fries them for the technology, and then the clients are left holding the bag,
That's
right?
right.
Tell me a bit about the culture perspective, because that's one of the things that, I've certainly written and spoke about quite a bit, is the fact that, technology is great, but at the end of the day, if the culture isn't attuned to it, forget about it. You're not going to get adoption. How do you get that quick pulse of really understanding where the culture is at and really providing those insights to the leadership team, the executives who are making these decisions, to help to guide them? Because naturally they're almost too close to the mirror, right? They can't necessarily see all that's around them. And you're bringing those new insights to them of perhaps some of the things they might have to get in front of before they make some of these more strategic technology decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it comes down to understanding. Um, there's a couple of things. One, middle management plays a important role in the adoption of a technology throughout the organization.
Mm,
So that's an important key to think about that most people don't realize. You may have senior leadership saying, yes, let's do this. Um, you've got your, you know, feet on the street workers who are like, meh, but that layer of middle management, they play a vital role. And whether technology gets used, adopted, because they're the ones that have to understand it, they have to care, they have to hold their teams accountable, right? And if they aren't bought in, number one, they have to be bought in. Number two, they have to understand. And so
mm,
sometimes they get left out. They're like, executive management says, yes, we're going to execute this, roll this out to everybody. That layer of middle management doesn't understand it or doesn't care. And therefore, they're not going to be good supporters.
yeah.
They're not going to be good trainers. They're not going to be good coaches, and they're not going to be good advocates. And if they can't do those things, then the change management, the implementation and the rollout, it's going to fail.
And have you had to bring that bad news sometimes to the decision makers to say, hey, we have to do a bit more on the OCM front to really make this stick?
100%. We've had to do that multiple times. We try to do that up front now because we've been through this game, right?
Of
We've been
course.
to we've been to the rodeo more than once. So we try to do it up front, but even when you tell an organization that that has to be done, the actual executing of that is a challenge, right? Because you think about it, and the reason that becomes a challenge is because everybody's busy.
Of course. Yeah.
Everybody's busy. Everybody has priorities. Everybody has the things that they're being measured on today. And so oftentimes we have to go back and say, hey, we're having this problem of adoption. The adoption issue is sitting here at the middle management level. Let's do what we can to bolster up the support, the understanding of this group here so that they can ensure that we're gaining adoption and that the technology is being used throughout the organization appropriately.
Fantastic. What standout projects have you seen? I know, you've worked with a number of vendors, particularly first focused on HubSpot, expanding from there. But now with the rise of AI, where do you see from the conversations you're having with your clients, where are they at this stage? Because there is, varying degrees of AI adoption, appetite for AI and what it even means. What are you seeing out there in the market?
We're seeing a couple of things. So for the past 3 years, no, 4 years actually, we've been every year, and I can't believe that we're getting close to the end of a year and we're going to do this again. We survey all of our customers and past customers, and we've been asking what is their take on AI.
Mm,
And I bring this up because a few years ago, one of our customers said, hey, we're already doing AI with the stuff that we're doing with you guys, right? My thought of what I was trying to get at was focusing on all the future things that AI is doing. And they were already thinking, you know what? We're already doing this.
mm,
So I've seen lots of surveys that are saying that something similar, right? Many organizations are already saying that they're implementing and they're using these tools,
yep.
right? And so a lot of the hype that we were seeing, I believe, is kind of dwindling, which is interesting to see a lot of it dwindling. But I actually think that's a positive thing because what we see people thinking about now is not the hype. Where there was a lot of hype, people are starting to think about how can I use these tools to solve real business problems.
Yeah.
That's what's important. And so I think that Gen AI is just another tool, right? It's not a business strategy unless you're a software as a service company, right?
Unless you're selling it.
Unless you're selling it, it's not a strategy. It's just another tool, right? And so companies are thinking about, how can I use this tool to help my employees be more productive? How
Mm,
can I use this tool to have operational efficiencies? How can I use these tools to improve my revenue generation processes, right? That's what people are thinking about. And the way that we're helping them is to say, look, you have problem with operations, you have
mhm.
problems with sales and marketing, you have internal efficiency problems. We want to solve those problems for you. Oh, by the way, one of the tools in our tool belt is going to be AI, Gen AI, and these other
Mm.
tools and platforms, right? You still have to solve the business problem first, right? Then once you solve the business problem, you just grab the right tool. And it just so happens that a lot of platforms happen to use Gen AI as part of the tool.
Have you found that you've had to really kind of, how do I say this, corral your clients into the right use cases to start first? Meaning they may have this vision board of how they want to bring AI into the company, and it's, looks like something out of a beautiful mind of post-it notes, really saying, well, look, let's actually focus in on what is the use case? What is the business value? Do you have the stakeholders and the ownership that's going to drive this forward? How are we going to measure the, et cetera? Like all the components to whittle down those use cases into something that really gets them to stand up. Do you guide them on that journey as well?
So those are the conversations that we have every day.
Yeah.
Those are the conversations that we have every day. And we most definitely help to guide people down this path. And the reason why we have these conversations today is because there's a lot of noise in
Yeah.
the marketplace today, and that noise can be confusing. And so what we try to do with companies is to help them filter out that noise so they can hear the right things.
Mm.
And then once they hear the right things, now it resonates with them. And once it resonates, then they can start taking the appropriate actions. Because there are a lot of cool ways to think about using AI from an innovative perspective. Possibilities unlimited, right? But in order to get there, right, to these cool ideas, you got to have the fundamentals in place first, right? And so we help them take a targeted approach using, a proven framework to walk them through a process that allows them to get to where they need to be, making sure that you have the right data in place, making sure you have the right governance in place, making sure you have the right project management and change management plans in place, making sure that you have a good rollout plan and that it's designed appropriately. All of those things we help companies walk through so that at the end of the day, they don't have, you know, just a chat bot, all right? They have a system that they can use to help scale their organization and to be much more successful, and to use those learnings and put those practices in place that they can now go through and iterate and use that use case to solve for the next use case, right?
Mm.
So you shouldn't be trying to take on too many. Identify the first, solve it, learn from it, and then use those learnings to go after the next.
So building in those good practices on how to drive adoption by going through the process, making sure you're doing all the right things.
100%. That's so critical. It's so important. And if people just continue to think about the methodology that they're using to
Mm.
implement, then they're going to come out ahead quicker, actually, over time.
Reflecting on the last 10 years, what would be some of the advice that you might give to digital workplace leaders, application owners to ensure their success in deploying technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you want to be successful in deploying technology, um, you need to be structured about it. I think that that's what's important. You need to be structured, and as you're going through it in a structured way, you need to document the good, the bad, the ugly, right? So that you can learn from it, uh,
Mm,
not just at the end, but as you're going through the process, right? And so, have a framework that a methodology that you're going to follow, document, communicate, and those are the key fundamental elements that will help you be successful as you're going through that process. And as part of that process, right, as part of that process, you have to have a good strategy and you've got to have a good documented execution plan, right? That
mm.
you're going to at least use as you're going through.
You highlighted something that I don't think gets emphasized enough because there's millions of frameworks out there, right? In terms of either deployment change strategies, organizational change, et cetera. Um, but learning lessons through each stage and taking note of those, because you always see measurement at the end of a particular process, improvement. Great, we're going to learn our lesson here. But, you highlighted a key point. If you're not learning those lessons throughout, whether it's, culture, blockers, enablers, et cetera, then you're not necessarily improving throughout that life cycle of the process of that chunk of moving from point A to point B.
That's right. That is so important because you can catch things quickly, right?
Mm,
And if you catch things quickly, then that's going to help you iterate, right? And that's going to help you just ensure that the results, you know, that you want happen, right? It's not, you don't want to look back. It's so far that you can't take any action, right? Until the next project. You got to look back, sooner than later.
I like that. I like that. And I know we started the conversation around entrepreneurship, but I think it'd be good to end on it there as well. Is what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs, those who are looking to get out there on their own, and navigating some of the current market challenges? What would you say to your former self?
What would I say to my former self? That's a great question. Here's what I would say to my former self. Don't go it alone. Don't go it alone. And what I mean by that is, yes, you've got to do a lot of things alone, but there's a network of people out there who can help you, right? Who can guide you, who can coach you, can mentor you. Um, Lean on those resources that are out there, right? Um, I wish that I wish that people would have told me some of the things that I learned earlier, right? And I think that if I had a bigger network at the beginning, then it would have saved me a lot of headache, right? So always grow your network, learn from them, listen to them, but also at the same time, learn what to filter out. I think that's important. Don't take the advice of everybody that you hear. Listen to what they're meaning, not what they're saying.
Mm,
Right? Listen to what they're meaning, not what they're saying. And when you do that, internalize it and then act like a founder and make the right decision for you. Because what someone else did may not be the best choice for you, but learn and use that.
that's awesome. Great advice. Kevin, really appreciate you coming on to the Work With today. Where can folks learn more about your company and what you folks do?
Yeah. Take a look at our website, manobyte.com. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. You can find me easily there. And I've got my personal website, kjdean.com, where you can reach out to me personally. So we'd love to continue to engage. And for anyone out there who wants assistance on learning on how to be an entrepreneur themselves, or challenge that they may have from a process perspective for their organization, glad to share some more insights with them.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Kevin.
Rob, this has been great. Thank you.